I want to talk to you about how and why I'm switching my plants over to semi-hydro. Hi, my name is Matt, and if you've been on this channel for some time, you will know that I have been experimenting lately with semi-hydro, and honestly, I have been loving it. I have had such great success, and honestly, I've had success with plants that I was struggling with. For example, my Alocasia Frydek. This plant literally never looked this good. This plant was always either a one leaf, maybe two leaf wonder, and it never was thriving in soil. However, ever since moving it into semi-hydro, I managed to grow this bushy freaking beast, and now it's literally one of my favorite plants in my whole collection. I have some other plants that I also transferred into semi-hydro that are doing a lot better than they did in soil. So I really fell in love with semi-hydro. I mean, it's just so easy, it's so simple, and I want to talk about it. I want to share my experience thus far, and I also want to kind of document my process of switching some of my plants over to semi-hydro and just seeing how this will go. Obviously, I'm still very new to semi-hydro, so maybe in like a year's time from now, I will realize that semi-hydro isn't for me, but we'll see. I am very much a trial and error kind of person. I like to just do things without really thinking them through and seeing how it will go. I'm very YOLO like that. I also thought instead of just me talking to the camera, we could do some fun little repots. So we will be repotting both of my Alocasia Frydeks. Actually, I have this one and I have a tiny little baby one. And I also want to pot up some Hoya croniana propagations that I have in my prop box. And I will be also moving those into semi-hydro. So that's the plan for today. If that sounds good to you, grab yourself a cozy little beverage, a little snack, and let's get to going. Like I mentioned, this is my Alocasia Frydek, and isn't she looking absolutely stunning? Now, oh Jesus, she's heavy. This plant has been in semi-hydro for a couple of months now, and it's not that she needs a repot. I mean, she has a lot of roots. I'm just gonna go ahead and let that drip over here. She has a lot of roots coming out the bottom, as you can see, and I think some of them might be, some of them are a little bit rotten. So I do want to take this plant out of here, give her a good look over, and transfer her into something a little bit bigger. But the main reason why I want to repot her is so I can actually put her into a self-watering pot. This is a self-watering pot system from LECA, so you buy the insert and the pot separately. It is a little bit more expensive that way. It's a really nice quality plastic. I really like LECA as a brand for like plastic pot, because on the whole, I'm not a big plastic pot person. However, for self-watering, and especially for like bigger plants, plastic pots are definitely a lot cheaper. That's what we're gonna be doing. But first of all, let me just go ahead and get the stake out of here. I mean, this stake honestly isn't doing much anyway, so yeah. We're just gonna go ahead and unpot her and see what we have going on. I'm just gonna go ahead and remove some of these red roots. The semi-hydro that I was using, or that I am using, is the Soil Ninja's semi-hydro, the coarse one. They have like a fine one and a coarse one, but I recently also bought the Lechuza brand, their pawn, but I bought like the basic pawn. I didn't buy the Lechuza pawn that comes pre-fertilized, because I like to fertilize my plants myself. I just bought the basic version of it, and that pawn is definitely a lot finer. That's actually the pawn that I have in this bin over here, so that's what we're gonna be using today. And I love the Soil Ninja stuff, don't get me wrong. I really do like the Soil Ninja stuff. You can see just how well rooted this plant is. However, the Soil Ninja's semi-hydro is like twice the price of the Lechuza one, so I just want to try out the Lechuza one just to see if there's like any difference at all. So I'm just gonna go ahead and reuse some of this semi-hydro and put it at the bottom of this vessel. This was in a, I believe this is a 19 centimeter nursery. So this was in a 19 centimeter nursery, and now I'm putting her in a 24 centimeter self-watering system. Quite an upsize, but I think she will like that, honestly. This is such a huge plant. It's so hard to maneuver around it. Good God, you are a beast. Can you just like move? There we go. There we go. There we go. That's gonna be a little bit easier. This will be, I think, a nice little upsize for her. And like I said, this plant has been really, really thriving in semi-hydro, and that just makes me so happy, because whenever my plants are happy, obviously I am happy. And I really found that they love semi-hydro. I think it's mainly because semi-hydro just allows you to be very, very consistent with your watering. It allows you to basically always stay on top of watering. You don't risk the chance of overwatering or underwatering your plants. Now, of course, you can still underwater and overwater your plants in semi-hydro. However, if you're just being careful, there is a lot less of a chance that you will over or underwater your plants. And to me, I think the reason why most of my plants are suffering is mostly because of inconsistent watering habits. And that is something semi-hydro is great at, because it creates a consistently moist environment, and our plants love consistency, whether it be the temperature, whether it be humidity, whether it be how much water they get. They just love consistency, and I think semi-hydro is really just allowing me to be consistent with watering my plants. And also, it feels like overwatering your plants in semi-hydro is a lot harder than it is in soil, because for soil, you don't really know when to water your plant. Like, you can never be like 100% sure. There's always gonna be kind of that guessing game. And you know, most of the time people say err on the side of underwatering rather than overwatering. But I feel like I have rotted more plants by underwatering them than overwatering them, because plants love moisture. They really, really love moisture. And I think semi-hydro is amazing because it virtually gets rid of that guessing game. You know when you need to water your plant. When the reservoir is low or gone, you need to water your plant. And especially for these like self-watering planters, you know, you have that little indicator that tells you like the max and minimum levels, and it just makes life easier. And for some reason, I just have an easier time keeping up with watering my semi-hydro plants than I do with my soil plants, because for soil plants, I usually let them dry out like pretty much completely till they're like bone dry. And oftentimes that isn't really great for my plants. And oftentimes I will just forget, like I will let a plant go bone dry, and then I will forget about it for like a couple more days, and by the time I actually check to see if it needs water, it's like very, very, very dry. And with semi-hydro, I don't have that issue. Like, for some reason, I find it a lot easier to just, you know, either look at the indicator or pop up the little nursery pot that it's in, and I can just look at the reservoir, and I have a clear visual of when I need to water my plants. And I think that's why semi-hydro is just so much easier for me. And I personally love taking care of my plants. I love watering my plants. I love doing stuff to my plants. For me, it was never about making my plant care easier. It was about unlocking the full potential in my plants. And I know that I cannot unlock the full potential of my plants when I'm underwatering them and when I'm not giving them consistent nutrients and consistent conditions. So that's why I have been really, really liking semi-hydro, and that is probably the main reason why my plants have also been liking it, because they have just been getting consistent conditions. There we go, Miss Frydek. She's done. She is in a pretty big pot. I'm just gonna go ahead and put her in a cover pot, and I will take her outside later and give her a good hose down, because I also think she might have like some spider mites, but yeah, she's looking gorgeous. I will say with semi-hydro, it is a little bit more work than with soil, because you do actually have to rinse this stuff. Like, you really have to rinse this stuff. I also try to flush my semi-hydro plants with every single watering, just because it is constantly sitting in water and it is constantly sitting usually in a nutrient solution. So I really like to flush out my plants often. Maybe every watering is a bit too much, but like I would recommend at least once a month just really flushing your plants. And that's why I really prefer these kinds of pots where you can actually, you know, remove the little insert. I'll show you another one. This is just from Amazon, and I just love that you can just remove this, take it to the sink, give it a good shower, versus the ones that just have the saucer at the bottom of the pot. Those I cannot stand. Like those I cannot stand. And another issue with those particular planters is, for example, if you want to shower your plant, like you can't shower your plants, or it's very hard to shower your plants because you risk overwatering your plant because you cannot like remove it. I mean, I guess you could always like tip over the excess water, but I mean, that's a hassle and you will get semi-hydro everywhere. So for me, these pots that are removable are amazing. Next up, we're gonna be doing this Diddy little fry deck. So this is actually the baby from that mother plant. And I did think about maybe combining them, but honestly, that mother plant is pretty huge and already has like 6 shoots in there. So I think I do want to keep this one separate just because, you know, I love fry decks and I don't think you can have enough fry decks in your collections. Most of the time, I don't like having duplicates in my collection. The fry deck is an exception because it is such a pretty plant. But yeah, this one has been living for a couple of months in just a plastic cup, and I just want to get her into something nicer. As you can see, she is very well rooted, and that's another thing that I love about semi-hydro. It is the roots. Semi-hydro roots are just freaking amazing. I'm looking for the little indicator thing. I found it. They are amazing. Like I could never achieve this healthy of a root system in soil. I mean, I could, but I find it a lot harder. I think plants in semi-hydro just root a lot easier and their roots just stay a lot healthier. And like I mentioned before, you are not underwatering them. And what happens with roots in soil, oftentimes I will underwater the plant and then the roots inside will rot the next time I actually water them because obviously they dry rotted. And then I have like just some dead roots in the soil and like, I don't know, I'm not a fan of that. So semi-hydro roots are just fabulous. I feel like they're so robust, they grow in so fast, and I just love semi-hydro. I don't know what else to tell y'all. I really like semi-hydro. I also thought about maybe playing around with some pawn. I'm playing around with pawn now. I thought about maybe playing around with some LECA because I actually never tried LECA before, so I would be curious to see how LECA would perform. I mean, LECA is also a form of semi-hydro, and this Soil Ninja semi-hydro actually does have a lot of LECA pieces in it, so I would be curious to try out LECA sometime in the future, but for now I am really just happy about using pawn. It has been really just such a great journey and I am so excited. And moving forward, I think that every new plant that I get or every new plant that I am restarting, I'm just gonna grow in semi-hydro because I just feel like I'm gonna have a lot more success with it. Now that might bite me in the ass along the way, but I don't know. We will see. We are entering the growing season. Finally, we have been having some really nice sunny days over here. It's been getting a lot warmer. The days have been a lot longer. So I am really curious to see how these semi-hydro plants will do moving forward, you know, into the spring and summer. I really think that they could pop off. Like I really feel like my semi-hydro plants could pop the heck off, and I'm very excited, y'all. I am very excited. And I just want to try out something new. Obviously, I have been growing in soil since the beginning of my plant journey, and I never imagined myself to be one of those people who would use semi-hydro. I don't know, I always thought of myself as a soil girly, but then, I mean, I just tried it and I fell in love. And there are obviously so many people, so many creators who use semi-hydro and just swear by it. Honestly, I can see the hype now. I can really see the hype now, and I have definitely been loving it. And obviously my plants have been loving it as well. And if my plants are happy, I'm happy as well. So there we go. Itty bitty titty little alocasia ferrida. She is all potted up, looking absolutely adorable. And obviously, like I mentioned, I'm still at the beginning of my semi-hydro journey. So please take all of this with a big grain of salt, because obviously I have no knowledge here. I'm just a silly little goof experimenting and trying things on camera, taking you along my journey. The next plant that I want to work on is in my prop box, and it is actually some cuttings of my Hoya croniana. If you've been, we have a hitchhiker. If you've been on this channel before, you may know that I did have a cute little Hoya croniana that croaked, and then I tried to rehab it and it croaked again. So I just decided to put it into my prop box, because honestly, prop boxes are just magical. Like, they are magic for your plants, and this guy has really rooted well. So I just want to take out all of these pieces, pot them into semi-hydro, because I feel like the croniana is one of those plants that really likes consistent water. And you know, Hoyas often get the rap for being like drought tolerant plants. In my experience, I feel like I have rotted a lot of my Hoyas by underwatering them, because I would let them go like completely dry, and because they have such like fine thin roots, the roots would just crisp up, and then the next time I would water the plant, they would just become mush. And I think that's what happened to this plant. I have a couple of cuttings over here. Yeah, we'll just see what we will end up doing. I have one of these like tiny little self-watering pots from Amazon. These are great. They cost like, I feel like 20 euros for like 10 pieces. So that's fabulous. And obviously for like tiny cuttings like this, it is absolutely great. And you have like a little window where you can see your water line. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of these like wick systems, because these wicks do get like nasty pretty freaking fast. But I mean, for small plants like this plant, it's not gonna permanently stay in this pot, so honestly I don't really care. And these have some really stunning roots. Like I say, the prop boxes are magic. I do think I'm gonna remove some of these lower leaves just so I can bury it a little bit lower into the pot. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give these little leaves a little bit of a choppity chop. I'm trying not to get the roots, but it's kind of hard. There we go. So I'm just basically gonna do that just so I have a little bit more stem to work with, rather than just having the leaves submerged. The drawback of semi-hydro would definitely be that you need to use fertilizer, especially if you're not like using the LECA with the you know, the slow release fertilizer. You definitely need to add like your own solution with every watering, because unlike soil, semi-hydro just doesn't contain any sort of nutrient, because at the end of the day, it's just rocks. And honestly, I'm not too fussy about nutrients. I just use whatever I have on hand, and yeah, like whatever general fertilizer you have that works for hydroponic growing, honestly, it will do fine. Like, you do not need anything fancy or special. In my opinion, most fertilizers just they kind of do the same. Like, I don't know, they kind of do the same. So when it comes to fertilizers, I'm not particularly fussy. I just use whatever I have on hand, if I'm being completely honest. Is that the best thing to do? I don't know, but so far I haven't had like any complaints. So I would just say try not to complicate it. I feel like we really sometimes overcomplicate houseplant growing, when it really doesn't have to be complicated. Like, it really doesn't have to be complicated. And if something works for you, girl, just go for it. Just go for it. You don't need all of these fancy fertilizers or stimulators and whatnot. And obviously, if growing in soil works for you and if you're having great success with it, by all means, continue to do it. Like, this video is not me telling you what to do. And also, obviously, I'm still gonna continue growing in soil. I still have a lot of plants in soil, and I'm not gonna stop growing my plants in soil. Basically, I just wanna move new plants or plants that are fussy into semi-hydro, just because I've had like an easier time dealing with them. But obviously, all of this depends on your conditions, because like if you have amazing conditions, you can literally grow like plants in pure peat moss and it will be absolutely fine. So all of it is about the conditions. It's all about your care and your preferences. So none of this is me saying that you should switch to semi-hydro. It's just me sharing with you my experience and my success and why I like semi-hydro in the first place. And honestly, the main reason is just the consistent watering and the fact that I see so much great, amazing results in my plants. I will definitely keep you updated as, you know, the growing season moves along and, you know, how my plants are doing and stuff. So yeah, that should be a really, really fun experiment. Now, this plant is coming out of a prop box, so ideally I would still keep it in a pretty high humidity environment until it adapts completely. Am I gonna do that? Probably not, because I'm lazy, honestly. And this plant, if it wants to live, it wants to live. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Like, this is my third time, y'all, restarting this plant. So honestly, if she croaks after this, I think this plant and me are not destined. I just spilled semi-hydro all over my carpet. Fabulous. That is absolutely fabulous. There we go. Hoya croniana, super silver, looking stunning. Hopefully she will take to this transition well. I would think she will. Like, on the whole, this is like a hardy Hoya. I just think I underwatered this thing severely a couple of times, and that's why it went downhill. But yeah, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Let me know in the comment section below if you're using semi-hydro and if you have any tips or tricks, because obviously I am still a beginner at this. But I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more Plenty content, and turn on the notifications so you're notified about every new video. And I will see you in the next one. Goodbye!